Hey everybody, welcome back to another severe weather center forecast video. Sorry I haven't posted in a while. I've been waiting for severe weather of this proportions, should I say, as we have a 2-day severe weather out outbreak, should I say, across the main parts will be across Oklahoma and Missouri and parts of Missouri today and tomorrow. This is today's, as you can see. This is the date up here. This is today's. You can see there's a small enhanced risk for severe weather with a chance for 10% tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail. And then tomorrow we also have another enhanced risk, but this time there's a 10% hatched risk of tornadoes, which basically means that there's a black outline, and if I could show you, I would. There's a black outline that goes across where the tornado area would, which is right where this enhanced risk is. That's the primary threat for tomorrow, is that we have that tornado threat. Like I said, for parts of eastern Oklahoma, maybe a little bit of the Red River Valley area down there. Are parts of western Arkansas, parts of western Arkansas, and even parts of extreme southern Missouri, and then everywhere else in between just has a general slight risk of severe weather, and sorts of that. But enough yip yabber about just like what Outlook has to say. Let's actually take a look at weather models and see what they have to say for these events, should I say. So let's get right into that. All right, so this is the first thing that we're going to take a look at for today's forecast, and this is the projected simulated radar here. And this is approximately what it looked like right around now to even a little bit later than this. This is an older model run because the new one is just coming in, so I can't really give a full update on that. I will briefly show it, but I may not. But as you see, as we head into the further overnight hours, we can see where we can really start to see more discrete cells, and that's where that greatest tornado threat is really going to start to explode, especially parts of the skull line for embedded supercells as of last night. As of last night, because we actually had some violent tornadoes move through central Oklahoma, and Oklahoma City in Midwest City last night at around 2:30 to 3 in the morning. Which was a little bit unexpected, but it was from a squall line like this that produced some storms. And then we also had another lone supercell down in the south that produced also another violent tornado in Texas. All three of those have yet to have a confirmed rating. However, they all seem to be preliminary rated EF3 at this time. Just a little side note. But anyway, this is where we could see that major kind of tornado threat really start to exist into tonight, which would be another nocturnal event. From there, you can kind of see they congeal together, but then you can kind of see where that tomorrow's system starts. Yes, we will see lingering showers and storms pretty much all on the front of this warm sector, but you can kind of see there's a lot of openness right here, and remember that enhanced risk is right in this general region. So as these storms push up and keep pushing up to the north, it's going to pull up some moisture. As it pushes and pulls that moisture up, it's gonna fire off storms and supercells. You can already kind of see that here, as I haven't even fully ran this model yet. You can kind of already see that beginning to develop. If I run this ahead here, you can just see that evidence there further. You can really see, just some storms firing up and stuff that's lifting up into this large sector. And we still could see some storms in this sector right up in here. Again, there is that 10% hatched risk, so tomorrow is a definitely higher risk day for tornadoes rather than today. However, still both days should be treated with the same amount of care. But as you can see, as I push this further, you can just kind of see the more and more discrete supercells and all sorts all across Arkansas tomorrow, which would pose as that tornado threat, along with this clump back over here back in Oklahoma, which is where that slight risk also extends into. So that we could also see maybe a few isolated tornadoes over there as well. But I'm gonna get into what the wind shear looks like, the tornado parameters, and all that stuff looks like, so we can really, so we can so I can really narrow down and explain why this is happening and what's causing that. So let's get right into that. All right, so this is the Supercell composite data table and stuff like that, and this basically shows like how strong the atmosphere is and is primed for supercells, and like how strong the values are. So if there were to be a storm, would it turn supercellular? And you can see this is a this isn't current. This is an older model because that new one's still coming in. However, they are relatively about the same of what I'm about to get into and explain for today's threat. Sadly, both models do not go far out enough to show tomorrow's threat over here. However, you can imagine the significant tornado parameter, which I will get into here in a second, is obviously probably a little bit more given that hatch risk for an enhanced tornado risk back over there. But anyway, let's just focus on today's risk before we get into that. So, we have a general Oklahoma risk, and then we also have a kind of Texas risk, so to speak. And as you can see, as we push this ahead, as we get later into the night, you can kind of see it will fizzle out eventually. You can kind of see those bright red values go from high to low, and that greatest threat's gonna really ramp up when we see that squall line. We're gonna have a squall line up here, and like that squall line will obviously continue down, like I showed you in the simulated radar. You can see we have like a main squall line here, and then some like supercells and like just stuff out ahead of that main squall line. You can kind of see there's an atmosphere that's like, it's not primed because obviously this isn't like, you can see the values aren't that high. They're relatively just red, and yellows, which still can produce an isolated tornado. However, it shouldn't be anything super like proportionate or big, as we saw maybe last night. But as the night goes on, we will start to see a more primed environment for tornadoes as the night goes on, and then from there, you can see that as the storms continue to move further this way into tomorrow's threat, it kind of lingers right in this region, and maybe even a little bit further down here if any storms do form. But after that, anything left over will eventually just get pushed and just begin to get carried up here into tomorrow's threat, which sadly it does not show. But I am going to show these significant tornado parameters now. So this is the significant tornado parameters now. Excuse me. And you can see that kind of consensus I was talking about really stands. You can see there will be an isolated threat up here that will develop a little bit later on here soon. I'd imagine storms are already beginning to fire up in that region. But again, it won't be as significant as in this region where that enhanced risk is. And you can already see as the night goes on, the consensus is it's going to really become a primed environment for tornadoes. Nonetheless, I mean, I could run this ahead like, we're going to see a lot of severe weather, here and maybe even down here, but the general consensus is wherever a storm forms in that enhanced risk, there's going to be a chance for some sort of tornado to come out of it. But how strong and like how certain will that be? That varies because you can see bright reds there, and then down here it's like green and like just not that very like prime. So it varies really. And then sadly, but this one kind of gives a better consensus. You can kind of see those significant tornado parameters move. You can see right up into tomorrow's threat, which will set up, which that will set up for another likely all day thing, depending on when the storms fire, which seems to be in the afternoon into evening, maybe even into overnight times. So now I'm gonna show you guys the wind shear values, just to show why the storm, or not to show why, I've said that in the past, but just to show the wind shear values and explain to explain why we're seeing a threat for tonight. And I may just throw in at the end, I'll just talk about the temperatures or something, just to close out for today's forecast. So let me get right into the wind shear values for you guys right now. All right, and this is the wind shear map here, and as um, you can see there's a lot of wind shear. These and just to point this out, those dots represent our already active storms. As I am making this video a little bit late, as today's severe weather event's already ongoing. I'm just kind of extending on what's going to happen as we head into later tonight, where I think that the event's really going to max out here. But you can kind of see out ahead of these dots, there's a really more primed environment. You can see there's a lot more wind shear out ahead of it for it to use. And you can already see like there's a lot wind shear out for tomorrow's threat. So it's set up nicely for these storms here. And as I run this ahead, you can kind of see those dots it's hard to see, but you can see they're embedded in that wind shear. You can see that's the squall line I was talking about. It's just going to feed off this wind shear that's primed for storms. Like I said, tornadoes and storms like wind shear, hurricanes do not. And actually, speaking of a hurricane, there is a tropical storm a disturbance that's formed, will likely become a tropical storm or hurricane and impact the United States by the end of the week. I will have another video out for that once we have something more concrete. But back to the main focus. We're going to have a lot of wind shear for these storms to kind of use. Now, it's not going to be like a widespread thing, like a widespread tornado outbreak. Like I said, this is somewhat localized to just Oklahoma and maybe parts of Texas. But, we have a good chunk of wind shear right in this area for storms to use for tonight. This isn't like a big thing. And then if we go into tomorrow's does not show, unfortunately. But you can catch the gist is like tomorrow's threat does go up a little bit further. You can see there's a lot more wind shear and stuff like that, and eventually more wind shear should come in from behind and from a trough, and that's what's going to produce that. So just to close out the video, I'm going to give a quick temperature, just a long-term temperature outlook, and that will be the video for today's forecast. So let me get into the final thing for today's video. And finally, this is the temperature plot or graph, should I say, for the entire mainland United States. You can see a lot of warmer temperatures for areas that are seeing, some severe weather and stuff like that, or at least active periods. Everywhere else is seeing some definitely fall-like temperatures, some very cold, dry air. For areas that have already seen some severe weather from about a week from last week's event. And you can kind of see the emphasis. There's a large cold front right here, which is going to just drive in this cold air, and sweep across the United States and really give everybody that chill into fall-like temperatures. As I run this ahead, you can really see that. However, it does make an attempt to kind of bubble over the southern tier of the United States. Everywhere else seems to stay pretty much cold, or not, or at least a little bit chilly in some areas. But eventually, that heat kind of stays bubbled up. It does try to warm up, but that really gets blocked up, and we could begin to see another severe weather event coming soon from this from this very sharp cold line front. It looks like right there. So we could begin to see another severe weather event, which could blast in more cold air in the near future. So yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. Share this information to anybody that would like to know this, as we do have tornadoes in forecast for today and tomorrow. That is vital information to know, as we could see some strong ones tomorrow, as that event does seem pretty favorable for some strong tornadoes. So please, if you wouldn't mind sharing. Enough of that. I will see everybody in the next forecast. Goodbye.